Now to demonstrate your reversal on inventory write-down class, the gain on reversal from inventory write-down, the first thing we have to understand is when does the gain on reversal of inventory write-down happen? The reversal of inventory write-down class is simply the opposite of your write-down. When do we write down our inventories? We write it down. We bring it down to a lower amount in the event that the net realizable value or the recoverable amount is lower than its cost. So from that principal class, when do you think will there be a reversal of inventory write-down? There will be a reversal on inventory write-down class if subsequently the net realizable value of the inventories goes up. So what do you do when that happens? You try to recover or cancel out the previously recognized loss from the previous period by recognizing a gain on reversal in the current period, in the period in which the net realizable value increased, in the period in which the value of the inventories was able to improve or recover. Focusing now on product C class, since this was the only inventory that was written down, at the end of the year, it was reported at 120. But what if in the subsequent year class, the net realizable value improved to 140? From 120, it is now at 140. So the question again that we will have to answer is, at what amount should product C be reported? So for product C alone, we still apply the LCNRV requirement. So you still compare the cost of 150. Again, very important. The cost tends to be constant. What will be fluctuating year in and year out would be your net realizable value. So from the first year, we compared 150 and 120. On the second year, the net realizable value is 140. What are we supposed to do? Again, just choose the lower amount. But this time, you are going to be comparing 150 and 140. Ignore 120 as of year 2 because the 120 is only relevant during the first year. So this time, the relevant amounts are 150 and 140. And between 150 and 140, which one will we choose? We will be choosing 140 because again, that it is the lower amount. But based on our records class, it started at 150. We wrote it down to 120. So at present, before any adjustment for the second year, the carrying amount of product C in our records would be 120. But at what amount should it be recorded, class? It is at 140 because between 150 and 140, 140 is the lower amount. But again, the amount in our records is still at 120, but it should be reported at 140. So what should we do now? We have to increase it from 120 to 140. We have to increase our inventories by 20,000. So we are now forced to increase our asset. And the increase in our asset class is not due to the contributions or withdrawals from our equity holders, and that is why the increase of 20,000, the increase of 20 will be considered as a gain. What kind of a gain? What kind of income? A gain on the reversal of your inventory write-down. Why do we call it as a reversal of our inventory write-down? Because basically we are canceling or reversing the previously recognized loss on inventory write-down from the last year. I hope this makes sense, class. On the first year, our inventories was impaired by 30,000, but this year its net realizable value improved, its net realizable value recovered. So that means the impairment on our inventory is no longer 30,000 but this time a lower amount. So that's why we will have to recognize the improvement in our net realizable value. What if on year 3, class, assuming product C was still not sold, class? What if its net realizable value is now at 145? What are we going to do? Again, report the inventory at its LCNRV. And again, what amounts are we going to compare? We are going to compare 150, which is the cost, and the net realizable value for the third year, which is 145. So you will have to choose between 150 and 145. And again, which one are we going to choose? We will be choosing 145 because between the two, the 145 is the lower amount. But the problem is, before the adjustments for the third year, the inventory product C was reported at 140. But at what amount should it be reported? It should be reported at 145. So what are we going to do? From 140, we have to increase it to 145. So you increase your inventory, and again, you attribute the increase in the asset to your gain on reversal. Because again, it's just as if we are just reversing the previously recognized loss on inventory write down. Then you would ask, didn't we already reverse the loss on inventory write down on year 2? Why are we still doing that on year 3? That's technically correct. But if you'll realize, class, the amount of loss that we have reversed in year 2 was only 20,000. And how much was the loss on inventory write down that was recognized in year 1, class? It was in the amount of 30. So since we had a loss of 30 in year 1 and we were only able to recover or reverse 20 in year 2, that means it is still possible for us to recognize additional reversal of inventory write down. So I hope that makes sense, class. As to what amount will be reported in your financial statements, again, just choose between the cost and the NRV. The cost tends to be constant. The NRV tends to fluctuate year in and year out.